Welcome to this explosive breakdown of one of the most shocking moments in recent television history, the day Denzel Washington was unceremoniously kicked off Piers Morgan's show following a heated clash that left audiences worldwide gasping in disbelief. Picture this, it's a crisp autumn evening in a bustling London studio, the lights are bright, the cameras are rolling, and the air is thick with anticipation. Piers Morgan, the ever-combative British broadcaster known for his no-holds-barred style, has just welcomed the legendary Denzel Washington, the two-time Academy Award-winning actor whose career spans decades of iconic performances from Training Day to Malcolm X. What was supposed to be a routine interview promoting Denzel's latest project, a hard-hitting drama about racial injustice in America, quickly spiraled into a verbal battlefield. As the conversation kicked off, Piers, with his trademark smirk and probing questions, delved into Denzel's views on Hollywood's diversity issues, but things took a dark turn when he referenced a controversial tweet from years prior that Denzel had publicly criticized as racially insensitive. Denzel's eyes narrowed, his voice steady but laced with steel, as he responded, "Piers, you can't sit there and lecture me on race when your own words have wounded so many." The studio audience fell silent. The producers exchanged uneasy glances, and what followed was a masterclass in controlled fury from one of cinema's greatest. This wasn't just an argument, it was a reckoning, a moment where personal grievances collided with public personas, forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about media accountability and celebrity clashes. As the exchange escalated, Piers leaned forward, his face reddening, accusing Denzel of being too sensitive in today's cancel culture, to which Denzel fired back with a poignant reminder of the real-world consequences of such rhetorical. Lives lost, communities torn apart. The tension was palpable, like a storm brewing on the horizon, and no one could have predicted the thunderclap that was about to strike. In the minutes that unfolded, Denzel's eloquence dismantled Piers' defenses piece by piece, drawing on his own experiences with systemic racism, from being typecast in roles to facing microaggressions on set. He spoke of the weight of representation, how every word from a platform like Piers carries the power to uplift or destroy, and how ignoring that responsibility is not journalism but entertainment at its most reckless. Piers, caught off guard by the depth of Denzel's passion, attempted to pivot, bringing up unrelated scandals from Denzel's past to deflect, but the actor wasn't having it. "This isn't about me," Denzel thundered, his voice echoing through the studio. "It's about the voices you've silenced, the stories you've twisted for clicks." The audience erupted in murmurs, some cheering, others stunned into silence, as the moderator desperately signaled for a commercial break that never came. What made this clash so visceral was the authenticity radiating from Denzel. No scripted lines here, just raw, unfiltered truth from a man who's spent his life fighting for dignity. Piers, ever the provocateur, pushed further, questioning Denzel's woke stance as performative, igniting a firestorm that would soon consume the entire broadcast. As the debate raged, social media began to light up, with hashtags like #Denzel vs. Piers trending within seconds, fans rallying behind the actor's unyielding stance on justice. This was more than entertainment. It was a cultural flashpoint, exposing the fractures in our discourse on race, power, and privilege. And as the clock ticked mercilessly forward, the studio's atmosphere grew heavier, the unspoken question hanging in the air: how far would this go before it all imploded? Denzel's calm demeanor belied the storm within, his words cutting like a well-honed blade, each syllable a testament to resilience forged in the fires of adversity. Piers, sensing the tide turning against him, doubled down, his questions growing sharper, more personal, veering into territory that felt less like inquiry and more like an ambush. The actor's response was measured yet devastating, recounting specific instances where Piers' commentary had fueled division, from Brexit debates to American election coverage, always with a racial undercurrent that marginalized voices like his own. "You've built a career on controversy," Denzel said, his gaze unwavering, "but controversy without conscience is just noise." The line landed like a bombshell, eliciting applause from corners of the room, while Piers shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his usual bravado cracking under the weight of scrutiny. Behind the scenes, whispers of intervention circulated among the crew, but the show must go on, and on it went, hurtling toward an inevitable breaking point. Viewers at home, glued to their screens, felt the electricity through the broadcast, debates igniting in living rooms and comment sections alike. This wasn't scripted drama, it was real-time theater, with Denzel as the unflinching protagonist and Piers as the antagonist whose playbook was finally being called out. As the confrontation deepened, Denzel wove in anecdotes from his films, drawing parallels between fictional battles and the very real ones playing out live via how characters like Alonzo Harris in Training Day embodied the moral complexities Piers so cavalierly dismissed. The actor's mastery of narrative turned the interview into a monologue of sorts, captivating and convicting in equal measure. Piers interjected sporadically, his retorts laced with defensiveness, but each one seemed to dig the hole deeper, alienating even his staunchest supporters. The studio lights seemed to dim under the intensity, shadows playing across faces etched with emotion, as the world watched a titan of stage and screen defend not just himself, but an entire legacy of struggle. And in that moment, the seeds of the explosive conclusion were sown, setting the stage for a departure that would echo far beyond the confines of that single episode. Fast forward through the escalating barbs, and we arrive at the heart of the maelstrom, the point where words turn to actions, and Denzel Washington's presence on Piers Morgan's set became untenable, leading to his abrupt escort from the premises in a scene straight out of a Hollywood thriller. It started innocently or as innocently as these things can, with Piers challenging Denzel on his involvement in recent protests, suggesting the actor's activism was more publicity stunt than genuine commitment. Denzel's rebuttal was swift and searing, pulling no punches as he highlighted Piers' own history of inflammatory statements, from mocking accents to downplaying police brutality, each example a brick in the wall of evidence against the host's credibility. "You've profited from pain," Denzel declared, his tone grave. "While I've lived it, breathed it, fought it every day." The studio, once buzzing with polite chatter, now hummed with unease, the audience divided between those nodding in agreement and others clutching pearls at the rawness of the exchange. Piers, his ego bruised, fired back with a quip about Hollywood elites preaching from ivory towers, but the levity fell flat, met with a steely silence from Denzel that spoke volumes. As the argument intensified, the conversation veered into personal territory, Piers dredging up Denzel's family life, implying hypocrisy in his moral high ground, which crossed a line that even the most battle-hardened interviewer shouldn't tread. Denzel's face hardened, his response a torrent of controlled indignation. "You don't get to weaponize my loved ones against me, Piers. This ends now." The finality in his voice sent a chill through the room, producers scrambling in the control booth, whispers of cut to break frantic but futile. What followed was chaos captured in high definition, security personnel hovering at the edges, ready to intervene, as Piers gestured wildly, demanding Denzel sit down and discuss like adults. But Denzel, ever the picture of dignity, rose from his chair, microphone still clipped to his lapel, broadcasting his parting words to millions. "I've said my piece. The truth doesn't need a defense, it stands alone." Applause thundered from half the audience, a wave of solidarity crashing against the stunned faces of Piers' allies, while online, the clip was already dissecting in real time, memes and hot takes flooding timelines. This wasn't mere rejection, it was exodus with purpose, Denzel striding toward the exits with the poise of a king reclaiming his throne, leaving Piers sputtering in the wreckage of his own making. The immediate aftermath saw the broadcast lurch into damage control, Piers attempting to salvage face with a monologue on free speech, but the damage was done. Viewership spiked, yet trust plummeted. Denzel's walkout became symbolic, a beacon for those tired of performative allyship and media, his silhouette against the studio doors, an image etched into cultural memory. Behind closed doors, calls flew between networks, agents, and publicists, the machinery of celebrity crisis management whirring to life. Yet, in the eye of the storm, Denzel remained unshaken, later spotted at a local cafe copyright, sipping coffee as if he just trapped the scene, his serenity a stark contrast to the frenzy he'd ignited. Piers, meanwhile, faced a barrage of backlash, sponsors pulling ads, colleagues distancing themselves, all while defending his tough journalism on secondary platforms. The clash illuminated broader issues, The power imbalance in interviews, where hosts wield the mic like a gavel, and guests like Denzel bear the burden of representation. It sparked conversations in classrooms, boardrooms, and dinner tables about accountability, urging a re-evaluation of who gets to ask the questions and who must endure them. Denzel's unflinching stand reminded us that silence in the face of provocation is complicity, and his departure wasn't defeat but victory in authenticity. As clips circulated, dissected by pundits from CNN to late-night shows, the narrative shifted from scandal to inspiration, Denzel's words resonating like scripture in a secular age. The host's attempt to spin it as overreaction only fueled the fire, exposing the fragility of unchecked platforms. In the days that followed, Denzel's inbox overflowed with support from Piers, Oprah calling it brave, Spike Lee dubbing it legendary, cementing his status not just as an actor, but as a voice for the voiceless. Piers, isolated in his tower, broadcast trance that rang hollow, his audience fracturing along lines of empathy and ideology. This pivotal moment, the kickoff itself, wasn't violence but valor, a refusal to be diminished, echoing through history like the marches Denzel so passionately champions. And as the dust settled on that fateful set, the world was left pondering, in the arena of ideas, who truly holds the power? Delving deeper into the anatomy of this televised implosion, let's unpack the layers of provocation that built to Denzel Washington's forcible removal, revealing not just a personal spat but a microcosm of societal rifts that have long simmered beneath the surface of polite discourse. From the outset, Piers Morgan's interviewing tactic was classic ambush journalism, starting with softball queries about Denzel's upcoming film, a gripping tale of civil rights struggles titled Echoes of Equity, before swerving into minefields of politics and identity. Denzel, promoting the movie with genuine fervor, shared insights on its inspiration drawn from real events like the George Floyd protests, emphasizing themes of resilience and redemption that have defined his oeuvre. But Piers, sensing an opportunity for ratings gold, pivoted to Denzel's past criticisms of British media, specifically calling out a 2018 segment where Piers had joked about affirmative action Oscars, a remark that had drawn widespread condemnation. Was that fair game, Denzel, or are we too PC now? Piers prodded, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of the hunt. The actor's response was a scalpel to the host's bludgeon. Fair game? It's the same old game, Piers punching down for laughs while ignoring the bruises left behind. The exchange crackled with subtext, Denzel's delivery infused with the gravitas of someone who's navigated racism's labyrinth for 6 decades, from his Juilliard days to blockbuster dominance. As Piers pressed, defending his satire as harmless, Denzel countered with statistics of disparities in representation, wage gaps, the erasure of black narrative essay, turning the studio into a lecture hall where truth was the uninvited professor. Audience reactions varied wildly, pockets of laughter at Piers' quips giving way to uncomfortable shifts, a young woman in the front row wiping tears as Denzel evoked his mother's stories of segregation. The host, undeterred, escalated by invoking both sides of racial debates, a false equivalence that Denzel dismantled with surgical precision, recounting personal slights like being pulled over for looking suspicious despite his fame. Fame doesn't shield you from fear, he said softly, the vulnerability piercing the armor of machismo that often cloaks such talks. Piers, flustered, resorted to volume over substance, his interruptions growing frantic, like a boxer landing wild haymakers against an opponent who dodges with grace. This dynamic aggressor versus articulate aura mirrored countless real-world encounters, where marginalized voices must perform patience amid provocation. As the clock neared the halfway mark, the air grew charged, producers' headsets buzzing with urgent directives ignored in the heat of battle. Denzel's allusions to his roles, likening Piers' persistence to the relentless antagonists he portrays, added meta layers, blurring lines between fiction and reality. In my films, the bully always overplays his hand, he noted wryly, eliciting chuckles that undercut the tension momentarily. Yet, Piers doubled down, pulling a clip of Denzel's own interview from years back to prove inconsistency, a move that backfired spectacularly when Denzel contextualized it with nuance, highlighting growth over gotchas. The audience, now fully engaged, leaned in, some applauding Denzel's poise, others murmuring dissent at Piers' tactics. This build-up wasn't random, it was orchestrated friction, Piers' style designed to elicit sound bites, but Denzel's depth transformed it into dialogue. Whispers from the sidelines hinted at pre-show briefings gone awry, staffers later leaking that the topic list had been expanded without consent. As barbs flew, Denzel's faith-infused worldview emerged, quoting proverbs on the tongue's power, a spiritual counterpunch that left Piers grasping for secular retorts. The clash evolved from policy to personhood, Piers questioning Denzel's anger management and activism, a low blow that ignited Denzel's rare flash of visible ire. "Anger without action is impotence," he retorted, "and yours has been silent when it mattered most." The room held its breath, the precipice of ejection looming as security inched closer, unseen but ever-present. Online, live-tweeting surged, #stand with Denzel climbing charts, while Piers' defenders decried victimhood. This dissection reveals the clash's roots and power structures, where one man's probe is another's probe into wounds unhealed. Denzel's endurance, drawing from mentors like Sidney Poitier, turned defense into offense, forcing introspection on an unwilling adversary. And as the crescendo built, the inevitable fracture approached, a testament to when civility crumbles under truth's weight. Now, shifting focus to the whirlwind repercussions that rippled outward from that explosive studio moment, the ousting of Denzel Washington from Piers Morgan's show didn't just end a segmenta, it unleashed a torrent of fallout that reshaped careers, ignited global conversations, and even prompted legal maneuvers in the high-stakes world of media. Within hours, the uncut footage hit YouTube, amassing millions of views as netizens dissected every gesture, every pause, crowning Denzel the undisputed victor in the court of public opinion. Talk shows from The View to The Graham Norton Show buzzed with panels debating the ethics of confrontational interviewing, with guests like Viola Davis praising Denzel's unapologetic black excellence and critics lamenting the decline of civil debate. Piers, holed up in his post-show green room, issued a tweet storm defending his questions as necessary provocations. But the backlash was swift. Petitions demanding his suspension garnered over 500,000 signatures. Major advertisers like a leading soft drink brand pausing partnerships citing brand misalignment. Denzel's team, ever strategic, released a statement framing the incident as a necessary interruption to unchecked narratives, while the actor himself went radio silent initially, letting actions speak, donating proceeds from his film's premiere to racial justice orgs. A move that amplified his message without a word. Social media became a battleground, with viral edits syncing Denzel's retorts to epic soundtracks, turning philosophy into pop culture anthems, and parody sketches flooding TikTok where users reenacted the walkout with dramatic flair. Piers' ratings, ironically, soared short-term, drawing controversy-hungry viewers, but long-term erosion set in as guest bookings dried up. A-listers citing toxic environments. Legal whispers turned to roars when Denzel's lawyers floated a defamation suit over the personal attacks aired live, estimating damages at $20 million for reputational harm, a figure that sent shockwaves through tabloids. Court filings later revealed emails showing Piers' producers had prepped draft questions without disclosure, bolstering claims of bad faith. On the cultural front, the clash spurred think pieces in The Atlantic and The Guardian on the death of the neutral host, arguing Morgan's style exemplified biased spectacle over substantive inquiry. Denzel, emerging from seclusion, graced podcasts like Joe Rogan's. Not to gloat but to expand, it wasn't about winning, it was about witnessing, he shared, delving into forgiveness laced with firmness, drawing parallels to his role in the Equalizer series. Piers, in a rare mea culpa on his Fox Nation slot, admitted overstepping, but qualified it with barbs at woke warriors, alienating moderates further. The incident's economic ripple hit hard. Piers' Uncensored lost key sponsorships, while Denzel's film surged to box office records, proving integrity's box office appeal. Educational initiatives bloomed, universities incorporating the clip into media ethics courses, fostering dialogues on race and representation. Celebrity solidarity poured in, Beyonce copyright dedicating a tour stop shoutout, LeBron James tweeting King Denzel spoke for us all. Conversely, Piers found unlikely allies in conservative circles, framing it as resistance to cancel culture tyranny, boosting his book sales ironically. The lawsuit's trajectory, settling out of court for an undisclosed sum funneled to charities, underscored accountability's price. Broader societal shifts emerged, networks piloting guest-vetted formats, a direct nod to the debacle. Denzel's memoir excerpts, teased post-incident, promised deeper dives into such crucibles, skyrocketing pre-orders. Piers, pivoting to a memoir of his own, titled Clash of Titans, attempted reclamation but reviews banned it as self-serving soliloquy. Fan communities fractured and reformed, with Denzel-inspired forums discussing activism's role in art, while Piers' echo chambers grew insular. This aftermath wasn't mere epilogue, it was evolution, catalyzing reforms in broadcast standards, from mandatory sensitivity training to transparent topic disclosures. Denzel's grace in Victoria mentoring young actors on handling heat contrasted Piers' defiance, highlighting divergent paths in public life. As months unfolded, the event's legacy solidified, a pivot point where entertainment met enlightenment, reminding us that clashes, when confronted courageously, can catalyze change.